Hey there friends, welcome back to my channel. Shalita here. I hope everyone's doing good. I hope everyone's had a happy holiday. So today we're going to do the end of the year book tag. So let's talk about all the books.
Savannah, slow down.
Let's talk about some of the books that I read this year, the good, the bad, the ugly. Before we get into today's video, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more. And without further ado, let's get into it. For the first question, what was the most disappointing or the worst book this year? So for me, the most disappointing book would have to have been The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. So this book was so, I wouldn't say this was the worst, but this was probably the most disappointing for me. When I heard about this book and I read the synopsis, I was like, yes, like I want to read that so bad. I kept hearing people talk about this book and talk about Riley Sager and, you know, just how much of a genius he is, you know, in the thriller genre. And I mean, the synopsis like really pulled me in. I mean, so much so, like I was ready to vouch for this book and I had never read any book from him. I was planning a whole little like family reading of this book. Like I was gonna get my daughter to read it. So I was like, hey, you know, me and you can read it. I was doing a buddy read with my daughter and Bae. And you know, I couldn't get them on board, which I'm kind of glad I didn't, because the book was such a letdown. Okay, so it was supposed to be a thriller, but it started feeling like, I don't know, it took a turn towards the paranormal, supernatural, and I was just like, absolutely not. Like, no. It would have been one thing if that's how it was marketed, but no. I felt duped. I felt bamboozled. And yeah, it didn't do it for me. So yeah, just on that one. All right, so next question. What was the most overhyped book that you read this year? So the most overhyped book for me would have to have been The Housemaid by Freida McFadden. And I know how some of y'all feel about Sister Freida. I know, I get it. But it wasn't a 5-star read. Let's just be real. It wasn't, I don't even think it was a 4-star when I look back. I think I might have given it 4 stars, but I mean, it wasn't a bad book, don't get me wrong, but it just wasn't like, it wasn't great. It wasn't amazing the way that people like rant and rave about this book. It wasn't all that. It just wasn't. Okay. I enjoyed it, but like I said, you know, just it was mid, you know? It is what it is. All right, next question. What book surprised you? For me, and this is gonna look, let's just get like all the negatives out of the way, because I promise like the rest of the questions I think are more positive. So the most surprising book for me was An Offer from a Gentleman by Julia Quinn. Here's why this book was surprising for me. I really enjoyed book 1 and book 2. Like, ate them up. You know, don't come for me about, you know, how problematic, you know, those books are. I get it. How problematic, unrealistic, yada 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 yada, whatever. I get it. But I enjoyed book 1 and book 2. I enjoyed the banter between the siblings in book 1 and book 2. I enjoyed the banter between Anthony and, I can't think of her name right now, from book 2, the main female character. I enjoyed the back and forth between them. But for me, book 3, Benedict was the ultimate like sheltered rich boy, just misogynist. He was mansplaining. He was gaslighting. Like, who did this man think he was? Like, trying to blackmail this girl into sleeping with him, basically. Like, hey, come be my mistress. Like, I know you could never be my wife, but how about you come be my mistress type situation? Bro, what the fuck? Like, where do you get off? And then, like, at the end, he redeems himself and sees the light or whatever. But I'm like, no, bro. By the end of the book, hell no. You done too much. I seen too much. So yeah, what was surprising for me is that I didn't enjoy it, or that it didn't live up to the other two books, book one and book two. So that was a surprise for me. Moving on, favorite book couple. So what was my favorite book couple this year? That would have to be Nia and Jake from How to Fail at Flirting by Denise Williams. Y'all, I love this book so much. Like, I ate this book up. This was a library copy, so I really need to buy my own copy because I definitely want to reread it. They were so cute. Like, their little nerdy banter. You know how they say like twins have like the twin language. Well, I mean, their back and forth, their exchange with each other was just like these nerdy like dad jokes. They were so cute. They were cute together. They got me here, you know. So really enjoyed Nia and Jake. Next question. All right, next question. Who is your new favorite author? So new favorite author for me would have to be Mr. S.A. Cosby, author of Razorblade Tears, author of My Darkest Prayers, author of Blacktop Wasteland. Okay, this man right here knows how to write a freaking thriller. Like, his books are so good. They're so immersive. They're full of action. They're full of tension and suspense. I cannot get enough of his writing. I absolutely love it. Love it, love it, love it. I've just eaten up everything that I can. I have one more book that I need to read from his catalog. And then he has the book coming out in June. And yeah, just phenomenal. Phenomenal. Favorite character. So who was my favorite character this year? That would have to be Miss Diana from the Gods and Monsters series. Specifically, the two books that I read this year were books 2 and 3. That was the Throne of the Broken Gods and Donna the Cursed Queen. So Diana is just, she a bad bitch, okay? She is just the ultimate baddie. So Diana is a morally great character. She's about her business, especially when it comes to the people that she loves. Diana is, I guess, considered like a cross between a vampire and a shapeshifter. She is this, I don't know if she's immortal or just really fucking hard to kill. But I mean, she can die, but, you know, not by natural causes. Y'all gonna have to forgive me for the extra noise. Y'all know I got a puppy over here. Pepper does not care that there's a camera out. Pepper's gonna do what Pepper wants to do when Pepper wants to do it. Okay, so I'm sorry. Forgive the noise. You know, parents of fur babies, you all get it. All right, but yeah, so Diana is, yeah, she will eat you up, spit you out. You know, she is ride or die for hers. Okay, so love her, absolutely love her. So the longest book that I read this year was It by Stephen King. And It, I mean, y'all can see, look how thick she is. Look how thick she is. So It is a whopping 1,116 pages long. So to be totally honest. I did primarily listen to this. I did primarily read this or listen to this as an audiobook. But I did read from it physically as often as I could, or maybe not as often as I could, but yeah, I did read through it sometimes physically. This is for those of you who, I don't know, are living under a rock, this is a classic horror, you know, written in the 80s. We are definitely going to get into this some more in my December wrap up. At first I wasn't going to do a December wrap up because most of the books that I've read this month were just, you know, like fluffy holiday romances. And I'm not gonna review those. I'm just not. But this book, I need to talk about this. We need to have a conversation about this book, okay? Just literally need to have a conversation about this book. Next question. What was the shortest book that you read this year? So the shortest book that I read this year was The Break She Needed by Lauren Lacey, which was a 142-page novella. So this book is about our main character, Evie, who is this hardworking, overworked, underappreciated 30-something. I think she's in her 30s. I could be wrong. Whatever. Age ain't nothing but a number. Age don't even matter. She has a shitty boyfriend, shit job that doesn't appreciate her, which actually turns out that her and her shit boyfriend work together. Sis needs a break, you know? So basically this is about, you know, basically Stella getting her groove back, right? Next question. What is a book or series that you wish you got to this year? So there were several books that I wish I got to this year. I know most of the books that I've been talking about today are books that I read audibly. And at the beginning of this video, you all saw me with this big ass stack. And you're probably wondering, why hasn't Shalita talked about this big stack of books? Where's the big stack of books coming? So the big stack of books is basically, or most of these books over here are books that I wish I had gotten to. So let's break down. So most of the books that I wish I had gotten to this year are books for my fall TBR. With the whole concept of blindly choosing my fall TBR, but there were several books that I just didn't get to. And that's this stack right here. So, Shiver by Ali Reynolds, which is a thriller. Their Vicious Games by Joelle Wellington, which is a young adult thriller. This one I'm really upset about this one. I was really excited about this one. The Girl with No Reflection. Fantasy, possibly romantasy. It just sounds really like dark and sinister and kind of creepy. So really upset that I didn't get to that one. And then The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo, which is a historical fantasy. So yeah, these were all my fall TBR and I didn't get to them. So really upset with myself about that, but hey, that's what happens when you get in the mood for other things. When you are a mood reader, sometimes you don't stick to TBRs. And the last book that I wish I had gotten to, Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. So this book has just been raved about, especially by Shaughnessy. And I just did not get to it. And just hearing her rave about this series all year and last year, and I didn't get to it, I'm like, oh. So this is one of those like priorities for 2025. Like, I gotta read this book. Gotta. I don't know if I'm gonna start my year off with this in January or what, but definitely putting this at the top of the priority list for next year. All right, I'm Shaughnessy girl. Probably not watching this at all, but I'm gonna read this. Just like you better be reading The House of Eve that I told you about, girl, and Kindred by Octavia Butler. You better get to that in 2025 too, girl. Okay. What are some books or some series that you wish you had gotten to this year that you didn't get around to reading? Let me know down in the comments. Maybe I can add them to my ever-growing TBR for next year. The next question: what was a book with a unique concept? Or what book did you read that had a unique concept? So for me, that would have to be Butcher and Blackbird by Bren Weaver. So this is a dark romance, but it's more like a dark romance, dark comedy situation. This book follows our main female and main male characters. They are serial killers who hunt and kill other serial killers. Is that not unique? Is it? I mean, where have you heard of that, right? Where have you heard of that? And you can't just say that they're just, you know, out here willy-nilly, you know, killing other serial killers. They are serial killers with code. They're only going after serial killers who are like bad, you know, like they're good. Like they're vigilantes, basically. They're helping out the feds and the local authorities because they're taking out like serial killers who are bad, you know, who prey on women, children, things like that, you know. So they apparently are like two highly revered serial killers in the serial killer realm, and they admire each other's work, and they turn it into a competition of sorts to see, you know, I guess who's the best. So anyway, and then they fall in love, yada yada yada. Really fun read. Really fun read. If you go into this, yes, there's a fair amount of like gore and things like that, but listen to the audio because the audiobook is hilarious. So definitely highly recommend that. Next question: what is a book that you wish that you could erase from your mind and read again for the first time? So for me, a book that I would love to read again for the first time would be This Could Be Us by Kennedy Ryan. This book will hold a special place in my heart for like forever. This book is on like my Mount Rushmore books. Like seriously, this has been my favorite book this year. Oh man, look, I'm getting emotional thinking about this book. I related so much to our Soledad, the main female character. I related so much to the main male character, Judah. And for anybody who's read this book, y'all already know Judah Cross is that man, right? But this book was just, it was so much more than a romance. And you will hear pretty much everyone say that's read this. This book has so much more to give than just a love story. It is a story about self-love, self-discovery, you know, triumph after trauma. You know, it's just like the comeback that Sus makes in this book. The comeback that she makes for herself, the way she shows up for herself and for her kids, you know, just an amazing book. And Judah Cross is just, no, I'm getting emotional thinking about it. I love this book so much. And just, you know, Kennedy knows how to write characters that feel like people, like you can identify with them, you can relate to them, you can empathize with them, and it's just a really good book. And I absolutely, like I said, I will love this book down forever. If you've never read this, please pick it up. It is a part of a series. It's part of the Skyland series, and it's part of a series, but they are standalones, so you can read them out of order. But I highly recommend, if you're going to dive into this, I read them in order. You know, because there are mentionings and references in this book about the couple from the first book. It's just better to read the first book first. But anyway, yes. Top notch. Top notch. What was the most emotional book you read this year? I know I was getting ready to well up on that one. So you would think that that one was the most emotional one that I read this year. But no, there were actually two that kind of took the cake. The first book was Saving Noah by Lucinda Berry. So this is a thriller, though I feel like it should have been marketed more as like a contemporary fiction. This book was so like emotional and can be very triggering for folks. So definitely check the trigger warnings on this. I think a lot of her thrillers center around children and things that have happened to children. I do believe she is a child psychologist, so she does have some background in that. This book deals with child sex abuse, and it's so emotional because you feel so much for those victims. Okay, so let me lay the groundwork for this one. So in this book, our perpetrator is a 17-year-old boy. He, you know, by all accounts is this all-American, you know, he's got everything going for him, right? And then he commits this unspeakable and despicable act by sexually abusing two of his swim students. So torn because I'm so disgusted by what he's done. You know, it's despicable. But then I can empathize with his mom, who's like, you know, this is, you know, she's in a state of denial. Like most of the book, she's in a state of denial. Like this is her baby boy, you know, she just can't believe that he did this. And then it's like the stages of grief, you know, she's in denial, and then she's like bargaining and trying to like minimize what he's done. Then things happen to him in this book, and you feel so, like as a mother, I felt pain for him, even in his situation, because like I said, at some point he becomes a victim in this. So it's just a very emotional book. It makes you feel uncomfortable at times because you're like, oh my God, am I really empathizing with this perpetrator? As a mom of both a boy and a girl, like you just, I was down bad after reading this book. I cried so much reading this book. It left me in, you know, not a reading slump, like an emotional slump. Like it just took me on a ride. So definitely if you choose to read this book, you know, just mentally prepare yourself, have somebody you can discuss it with afterward, because it packs a punch. The next emotional book, Long Shot by Kennedy Ryan. This book was so freaking heavy, but so good. And what's wild is this book is so full of trauma. And oh God, it made me cry a lot. But then I wanted to read it right after finishing. Like girl, what's wrong with you? Like this book was so like traumatizing, but I was like, oh, I can't wait to read it again. But this is another one of those romances that gives you more than romance. So this book deals with domestic violence. And, you know, hey, I will say there is a happy ending in this. Just be wary, protect your heart there when reading this. But yeah, down bad crying over this, but really, really powerful and impactful book. A very good read. And what was the happiest book that you read? So I don't know if it was necessarily the happiest book I read, but I know that it's one of the books that made me the happiest reading it. And I already mentioned it. How to Fail at Flirting by Denise Williams. Like I said, had me giggling, grinning, gave me all the, like, I don't know, fluffy romance feels. It was really good. Excellent book. So the last question was a reflection. You know, reflect on your Goodreads goal. So, so for this year, I set a goal of 50 books. I just felt like 50 was a good, you know, like solid number, which is wild because I think I only read like somewhere between 3 to 5 books last year. So, you know, I was really swinging for the fences with this one. But I'm happy to report that I have read 64 books this year. So we definitely surpassed our goal. Yay. So, and I guess it's not so much necessarily even about, you know, the number. I mean, even though, you know, duh, it's a goal. It's about the number, clearly. But for me, I'm just so, I don't know, grateful. Thinking on my goal for 2025. I'm trying to think. I can't remember what I said was going to be my goal. I think I set a goal for 70 because I'm almost there as it is. So I figured let's challenge ourselves. Let's challenge ourselves a little bit this year. Another thing for me, I listened to a lot of audiobooks this year, which reading is reading. There's nothing wrong with it. But I tended to neglect a lot of the books that I had on my shelf. I don't know exactly what I want that goal to look like this year. I am still working on setting up my reading journal, which at some point I will do like a flip through so you all can see kind of how I set my reading journals up. But I do know that I do want to read more physically this year, or, you know, in 2025. I read a lot of romance this year, and which is great, but I want to read more fantasy next year. So I don't know what that goal's gonna look like yet either, but somehow I will, you know, as I'm setting this up, I will figure that out. But I want to read more fantasy in 2025. I want to read more physical books in 2025. I do like I'll give you a little peek of this. I'll do like this year I did a 24 and 24 spread, and it really was just like the first 24 books that I read this year. That's what I put on there. But for 2025, what I'm doing is I'm putting 25 books that are already on my shelf that I want to get to. So those are going to be my 25 and 25. So I want to try to get these books read at some point this year. I'm pretty excited. I'm loving the way the journal's coming along so far. I don't know if you guys can see that. Don't look at my ratchet fingernails. But yeah, that's kind of the goal. So 70 for the year. I want to make sure that my goal is to try to get to those 25 books that I already have on my shelf. That is all that I have for you guys. So did you reach your reading goals for 2024? Let me know down in the comments. Are you setting a reading goal for 2025? If so, let me know down in the comments. What is your goal number for this year, or for this coming year? All right, guys, once again, hey, that's all that I have for you. If you made it to the end of the video, I thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more. And until the next one, friends, bye.